Welcome to Tequilacation, where we deep dive into all things tequila while we imbibe a little bit of the sweet juice itself. I'm Stephanie Acker, and I'm joined today with Chris Quintanilla, who is the CEO of Azulejos Tequila. Welcome, Chris.
Yeah, hey, how you doing?
Good.
Um,
And salud.
yes, cheers.
Don't we have such a tough job? I mean, I tell
Yeah,
you what,
somebody has to do it. It's a great day for tequila, though,
it
as
is.
every day is.
So, Chris, thanks so much for joining us again. I know you've been on a couple of other episodes with us as we get the Tequilacation started. I'm really excited about it, and it's so great for you to spend this time with us. I know you've been in the tequila world for a long time. You were in the distribution side of the business. Now, of course, you're inside the Azulejos business, which is your family business since the 90s, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you know all things tequila, right? So in our
Yes, I
first
do.
episode, we talked about the history of tequila, which is really fascinating, and why you would call it a tequila, like what, the different types of tequila. Then we just finished an episode recently where you actually taught us how to drink tequila, which is fantastic. If you haven't watched that, guys, definitely go back and watch that. It's really fascinating to learn about the different glasses that are going to give you the best experience, the what to kind of expect by the different tequilas, what to look for when you're shopping for a tequila. You even gave us a recipe for a drink, which was great, a 64-calorie drink, a tequila drink, which is like perfect for the summer. So thank you. But today we want to talk a little bit about like how tequila is actually produced, which is fascinating because it's a lot more complex than I knew. And it really does, I think, go into the whole story of why tequila is such a refined drink, and the history around it and why it's so different and why it's not, the tequila that you maybe think of when you think of back in your frat days with a terrible hangover. Like good tequila is a really refined. I think honestly, I'm a bourbon and a tequila drinker, my two favorite liquors. So tell me a little bit about that. Like what do we need to know about how tequila is produced?
Yeah, well, tequila is a distilled spirit made from agave. It's actually one of the most difficult spirits to make. The production is very complex. The farming of the agave takes a long time, and yeah, so I'm going to go into all the details, all the steps, kind of give you an idea of what it takes to get the tequila to your glass. So
Right. And it takes so long. It takes so
it does, it
long. I
does.
had no idea.
So tequila is made from the blue agave. It's called Blue Weber Agave Tequilana. So this is an agave native to the Jalisco region of Mexico. The agaves are grown at about a mile high in the plains, and it's in a kind of a soil that's kind of has sandy, volcanic, semi arid, so kind of in a desert like area. So being natural to that area, before the Spanish came over, it was made into pulque. When the Spanish came over, ran out of brandy, brought their stills, they decided to make tequila out of the pulque that was a fermented wine made from these agaves, right? So
You got to have your drink. I mean, I understand.
yeah, you run out of brandy, so what are you going to distill next? so the agave is a very particular plant. You can make mezcal from any type of agave. There's dozens and dozens of different types of agaves. Or for tequila, it has to be blue agave. And actually, a lot of people think that agave is a type of cactus. Actually, believe it or not, it's more related to the lily family than a cactus. And actually, an agave at the end of its life makes a giant flower and blooms once in its lifetime. And actually, bats are the ones who pollinate agaves. So it's a very, very unique plant. And
Wow, I had no idea. I didn't realize that agave bloomed.
yes, it's a beautiful flower, actually. The agave is harvested before it blooms in order to make tequila, but it is a very, very unique plant, and it's actually a flower, really. So what is an agave? It's a giant aloe vera plant. Just picture maybe probably 8 feet wide, up to 8 feet wide, with some very long, sharp spines. And
Wait,
to harvest
Chris, one agave can be 8 feet wide?
yes, and it can weigh probably with the spines and everything up to probably 200 pounds. So it's a good sized plant. Now there are actually bigger agaves for mezcal, but it's a good sized plant. So from that agave, it takes 7 to 10 years to fully mature, fully grow, and it what it does is over the time it's very slow growing, but it's collecting as many sugars as it can in its core in order to first of all survive the desert, any kind of droughts, so on and so forth,
Hmm.
and eventually it's collecting all that to have that bloom once in its life. It develops a stalk that's 10 plus feet high when it blooms, and so it's amassing throughout its lifetime all these nutrients and sugars in the core. So so now you're thinking about the farmers, and they have to plant their agave fields and guess 5, 10 years out how much agave is going to be necessary, how much to plant out, and you're going to spend all the money harvesting and planting and all the labor, and you're not going to see a reap a reward till 7, 10 years from now. 20,
Yeah, what a
30.
long growing cycle that
Yeah.
is.
So first of all, that makes it very complex. There have been times, I mentioned this earlier, is that there is too much agave, and after 7, 10 years, it starts to go bad. And if there's not enough demand, then they have to cut the agave fields and plant corn. But on the other end, there's more often is there a shortage of agave. As tequila is booming not only in the Mexico and the U.S. across the world, there's
Hmm.
more and more demand, and agave can only be planted in the tequila region, which is the state of Jalisco in kind of south west Mexico, and kind of some of the surrounding states, Michoacan, Nayarit, Guanajuato, and parts of Tamaulipas.
Now,
So,
that's something that I know because I've heard this as a challenge for tequila
mhm.
makers, and that's something that Azulejos is struggling with right now, right? Because your demand is growing, and I know obviously you've got the handmade bottles, which
Right.
take time, of course. But are you guys also seeing like some of that shrinking ability to get agave?
Yes, I mean there has been a shortage on agave for many years, and what happens it leads to some people taking shortcuts where instead of waiting agave to fully mature 7 years, they may be harvesting them at 4, 5 years, 3 years even, and then they're going to be a lot smaller and not as high quality. So the
Okay.
difficulty is finding the right quality agave from the right areas with all the right you know, grown correctly with the right nutrients, with the right amount of sugars to make the highest quality tequila. And that's very important. The raw material needs to be really good. So, so after the whole growing cycle, on top of that, well, there's a lot of funguses, bacteria that attack these agaves. There's called an agave weevil, a little bug that creates infestations, and I mean, it can spread very fast and devastate whole regions of agave. So
Really?
imagine
Okay.
you're a farmer, and on year 5, you get an infestation of the weevils or fungus. You can lose your whole crop, and that can be devastating to generations of your family. So
So like blight for corn or something like that.
yeah, absolutely
Yeah.
right. And on top of that, you always have to keep the agave clean from weeds. Sometimes the agaves shoot offshoots. They come little pups, so little miniature agave offshoots from the roots. So you have to
That's
actually take those
horrible.
off and plant them elsewhere. If not, actually, the little pup grows and actually kills the mother plant as it grows and expands because it has spines, right? So and it
Okay.
takes up the nutrients. So you have to harvest those, move them elsewhere, plant them elsewhere. So it's a lot of maintenance and very difficult agave product to produce crop. So that being said, also any kind of freeze will kill entire regions of agave.
Really?
So
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 this seems like a really stressful like product actually
yes,
to farm,
yeah,
right? There is so much timing that you have to have involved. You're essentially pre-planting before demand. Obviously, there's all the upkeep and everything. I mean, I can't think of another crop that has that level of requirement to it.
yes, and it's a testament to all the workers and the farmers in Mexico and all the everything they have to deal with. Floods, freezes. There was some big flooding a couple years ago, so it's difficult, and they continue to do really out of passion. out of pride for tequila.
Right.
Some of the hardest working people I've ever seen in my life. So yeah, just a testament to them and to the industry. So then harvesting the agave. So there comes a harvester. He has a specific knife called a koa. It's like let's say a hoe with a sharp edge, and you cut off all the spines, and you leave the heart of the agave. So figure an aloe vera plant. You cut off all the spines, and it kind of at the end looks like a pineapple. Is this the heart of the agave, the core?
Okay, I think I've seen the picture of that.
Yeah, like an asparagus or a core, right? This the heart. And these weigh up to 80, 100 pounds sometimes. And but the heart it's real like a pineapple. It's full of juice and full of sweetness. But I've tried to lift one, and they're pretty heavy. You got to watch your back. You lift with your knees because those are heavy.
I bet 80 to 100 pounds. I mean, that's intense.
Yeah. So they harvest them on the field, then they truck them down to the distillery. So once they get to the distillery, the first step is you need to cook the agave. You want to cook it to get the juices, the agave nectar out of the agave. So figure an onion, right? You put an onion in an oven, and it's going to caramelize.
It caramelizes, and
the juices will come out. So then when you press it, you're able to collect the sweet juices, right? So same thing with the agave. There's a couple methods there's 3-4 different methods of cooking the agave, but the most traditional is to use a brick oven. So you're putting all these agaves in the oven. They're going to get caramelized, and you're going to have a really nice, soft, imagine an onion or a pineapple that you can squeeze out the juices. There's also autoclaves. Huh?
That's got to be a massive oven.
Yeah, they're pretty big. The size of a house maybe.
Oh wow!
Depending on the distillery, there's some that are just like a couple rooms. Another way of cooking is these autoclaves, which are giant pressure cookers. So you put the agave in these pressure cookers, and they use steam and high pressure. And once you're done, you get a very uniformly cooked agave. So either way you cook them, sometimes you can blend the different types of cooking. Now you send it to a mill, really to squeeze out the agave juice into. And this milling process kind of goes through a bunch of rollers. There's also a tahona, which it's a volcanic rock that goes in circles that you can also squeeze out the juice as the rock goes over the crushed agaves. Very traditional method. There used to be where like a horse or a mule would go around the circle.
Okay.
Yeah, that's called a tahona.
Oh gosh, it must have taken forever. Imagine how long that would have taken back in the day.
Yes, and actually a lot of mezcal is still made with tahona. And there's still some tequila distilleries that have that method. It's very inefficient. It's kind of almost for show, but it's very cool how that's, it's been done that for 400 years, right? So tequila's been around for just that long. So since 1600s. So it's so once you have the juices after they're pressed out of the agave, then you have the agave juice, right? So picture like for grapes, you crush the grapes and you have grape juice. Mm-hmm. It's going to be sweet. It's going to be, and you've probably heard of agave nectar. It's a sweetener.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what that is. That juice, right? So that you're going to add yeast in these fermentation tanks. And what the yeast does, it converts the sugar molecules into alcohol molecules.
Okay.
So you add this yeast, and it does its process. It warms up, and you leave it in there 3-4 days. And this sugar, now you get a mixture of maybe 5-7% alcohol in these large stainless steel tanks. Usually, that was previously a sweet juice. Now it's a alcoholic, almost like a wine or a beer, you want to call it.
Okay.
In Spanish, it's called mosto. So this, and exact same process with wine. You add yeast, these grapes, they become alcohol after the yeast. So when you have this mosto, 7% alcohol, now the next step is you're going to distill it. So what does that mean is you take it to...
So can I actually stop here for a second first, just to kind of make sure I understand? So you've got the 7 years of growing the agave.
Yes.
Then now you're going to cook it. You're going to bake it.
You're going to bake it, right?
And that's like just a couple hours, or?
Let's say a day or two. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, a day or two. Then you're
Yes.
going to add the yeast, and that's going to
Yes.
do another 3 to 4 days.
Well, yeah. You first have to mill it and press out all the juices, right?
Mill it and
So
press
you
it.
have
Okay.
to
Then
press
put
them.
it in with the yeast. And
Yes.
now you're going to go to the next step. So we're already talking 7 years plus,
Yes.
at least a good week
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah. Right now you're at agave wine still, so it's not really quite tequila yet, right?
Okay. Okay.
So you get this beer, agave wine, mosto it's called, and you put it into a still. So what does a still do? It's going to boil this mixture, and the first thing to evaporate through the coils you see on a still. I think I have a little still bottle up there, but
Oh yeah, yeah. Show us. Can we see it?
sure. 1 second.
Now this is your new bottle coming out
Yeah,
later this year,
this
right?
is a project
New
we're working
still?
on. This will be called Gran Alambique. It'll
It's
probably be out
so
later this year,
beautiful.
2023, towards the holidays. But this is going to be a liter of extra añejo, right? So pop it out. But actually, it's a great prop. I wasn't expecting to use this.
Yeah.
And so you're boiling it through the bottom, right? And the first thing to evaporate is going to be the alcohol. So that 5% alcohol. So it's going to go up, and this coil is going to cool it down. It's going to collect in another container. So since it's mostly purely alcohol that's evaporating at first, you're going to come out from 5-7% alcohol to tequila. You distill it twice, and you end up about 55% alcohol. So it's going to be extremely strong product. Then you cut it down to about 40% alcohol, and the majority of tequila out in the market is going to be 40% alcohol, which is pretty in line with most whiskeys and rums and brandy and cognacs. So kind of that's the process to get to a silver blanco tequila that's unaged.
And then, so before we jump into the second part, just to add some more education for people, because I think a lot of people would find this fascinating, is so if it's 40% alcohol, that's going to be 80 proof.
Yes, correct. So
right, so just double it when people are asking about
pretty
proof.
much double it, and that's the number you get. So it comes out at 110 proof out of the still, then you cut it down to about 80 proof. So
okay.
Yes, and there's also the quality of the water needs to be correct. The amount of the time you're fermenting it, the type of cooking, where the agaves are from, and I didn't really touch on that, so I'm sorry going a little bit back, but the two predominant areas for growing agave is going to be the Highlands of Jalisco and the lowlands of Jalisco. The Highlands have this really, really red dirt. It's kind of called the land of the red dirt, and it's going to produce some bigger and sweeter agaves up there. You have a lot of sugar in them, and they're going to be very robust.
Okay.
The town of Tequila is actually in the Valley of Tequila, which there's a volcano, and right there in Tequila, and it's a really nice valley with volcanic soil, so a ton of minerals from the volcanic, and so you're going to get a lot of great minerality and great complexity from the lowlands.
So even the type of agave is going to give you different types of tequila.
Yes, you're going to get a more herbal, peppery, mineral flavor from the lowlands.
Okay.
And the sweeter from the highlands. So what we actually do in Azulejos, we blend it to about 50-50. So you're kind of getting the whole spectrum of the region.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's another interesting piece, a piece to it. So then once you get your blanco tequila, you're gonna want to age it to become a reposado añejo. So it's usually going to go into barrels, American oak barrels, and then you want to really. It's not the amount of time for reposado. You want to put it in the barrel, and really once the color's right, the aroma's right, that's when you take it out of the barrel. So again, reposado is going to be 2 months to 1 year. Usually around 6 months, 4 to 6 months is usually when you're going to stop aging reposado. Then in añejo, it's more than a year. A lot of them are 18 months. And the
blanco is essentially, so that's because that's not aged typically. Right. If it is, it's just like for a day or two. Right. And so the blanco you taught us in a different episode is essentially what everything up to this process gives us the blanco.
Yes, that's right.
So and then now when you age it, that's where it's going to start adding some of those additional notes. Okay.
That's right. So yeah, reposado, then you're going to get a nice pale straw hue, right, on the reposado. And then you can compare it to an añejo. You're going to get a lot darker color because this is aged much longer. An añejo is going to be aged 1 year, usually about 18 months. Again, you're looking for specific color and aroma once you get it out of the barrel. And then an extra añejo is going to be aged 3+ years. Now, on the extra añejo, you're going to get a lot more overpowering oak flavor. A reposado, you're still going to get a lot of the agave notes, but it's refined a little bit because of the aging. So it's going to smooth out the edges, get a little vanilla, little caramel flavors from the American oak barrels.
And if people want to learn a little bit more about that, watch our episode on essentially how to learn how to drink tequila,
Yes.
where you actually walked us through the different types of tequila, how to drink it, the glasses, everything, but also how to understand the notes of it and, where you should mix it and things like that. So, like, I'm a big reposado fan. That's my favorite tequila type. But if I'm going to sip a tequila, I'm going to go for an añejo.
Right. So right. So then, what we believe in is, okay, so you're there, right? Now, such a special product, you want it to be in a container that is, as artistic as a product, really.
Mm-hmm.
So, with our brands, we've really been important to create also a piece of art as we move liquids. This art, so are the bottles. So these are hand painted in a group of artisans in central Mexico. They're actually using natural flower pigments and ceramic to make these beautiful designs. And so we look at, a great product, a great package, and really attribute the testament to the artisans when it comes to the whole tequila production, the growing, the harvesting, the distilling, all the way to the bottle. And, people from Mexico are very proud of what we do on tequila. And, I think people now across the world recognize what tequila is. And you may have had a bad experience at first with tequila, but once you really understand and can appreciate it, and you can sip on a really nice reposado or añejo, you will it'll completely change your vision. And if you really see and understand what it takes to go through, you appreciate it even more. And
well, that's what I was going to say. Like the evolution that I've gone through, even with tequila, of course, everybody's got the college days or, the sneaking stuff out of your parents' liquor cabinet kind of days. In tequila, I think, back in the 80s and things like that before, your business got into it, and a couple of big names started getting into it in the early 90s. But, to really kind of take tequila up to a whole nother level, it's a completely different experience than what you drank back in the day. A pure tequila it's so refined. You don't get a headache. It's not the same. I love that there's not the added sugars. I know some brands do add that.
Yes.
I know you guys don't add the added sugars. There's no additives. So it makes such a huge difference, but it's just, it's so complex. I loved in the last episode where you taught us about the different notes. And that's something I'm going to be doing. I'm actually going to do a tasting, I think, with some of my friends.
Nice.
And and do different food around it. So you can see like how those different tastings react with the food. And, I just think it's just fascinating. I mean, tequila, the country should be very proud, and the area of tequila should be extremely proud of the fact that they can put this level of dedication and time and energy into a drink that we just pick up off our shelves and, make a drink for ourselves.
Yeah, it really is amazing what goes into it. And, all the people you're helping along the way. And also, the importers, the distributors, the delivery drivers, the people working at the liquor stores, grocery stores. I mean, it's a lot of people on the way are helped and benefited by the tequila and the industry. And, we want you to have a great experience. And, in the 80s and 90s, Mexico kind of kept the premium tequila to themselves. And with Patron and with all these other brands, really educating the people on what really premium tequila is and what really goes behind it, has allowed it to explode in the American market and globally. So, really proud of the industry and very passionate about everything we do and all the people along the way it helps out. So.
You do work in a great industry, I got to tell you. I mean, where else could it? So it's 12 o'clock my time, so 11 o'clock your time, I believe, right?
Yes.
So I mean, where else can you be having a conversation about tequila, drinking tequila? I mean,
salud, it's hard work,
right?
Cheers, salud.
It's tough. Okay, so if you had, I know we're going to wrap up here. If you had one piece of advice to someone that is, we talked a little bit about going to a liquor store, right? But now that they understand the difference in the background on the tequila and how long how long it takes. If you're going to say to somebody, okay, so you're brand new to tequila, here is the tequila I think you should go with, or here's what to think of when you're going to go get that very first tequila and how you should experience. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, the good thing is nowadays there's a lot of information available online. So you can definitely Google the brand, Google the distillery. But I think, do your research for sure, and how authentic it is, and who you're helping along the process. I think, and I mentioned this before, 100% agave is definitely well worth the extra $5 or $10 on a bottle, not only for the quality, but the headache afterwards. But really appreciating
how you feel the next day, so you still love yourself.
the product for sure. But yeah, there's a ton of information available online. So yeah, do a little research, and if you don't like it that much, there's a lot of other brands that it's a world out there, and I'm sure you'll find something that
yeah, it's just as complex as wine, really, like all the different brands. Would you recommend that they try a blanco or reposado or an añejo for their first kind of
great question,
foray?
right? So if you do like if you're a Scotch drinker, bourbon drinker, definitely go with an añejo. If you do like mixing or vodka gin, go with a blanco, or a reposado for sure if you want to be a little smoother. Mezcal drinker, if you can drink those heavy spirits, definitely a blanco is for you. But you can't go wrong with a nice reposado down the middle of the road. That's the most popular. It's great for sipping, and even better for mixing. So
good for a drink. We talked about before, like I love a blanco and a Bloody Maria because it's got kind of balances that acidic tomato. But if I'm making a margarita, which I squeeze the limes and all that good fun stuff, which is what I'm drinking now, it's reposado all the way.
Yes.
And then on a hot summer night, I'm sipping a slightly chilled añejo on my porch.
Absolutely. So
in case you can't tell, I really like tequila. I guess that's why I'm doing a show called Tequilacation, right?
That's right. Yeah, and again, you can experiment and try the same cocktail with a blanco and a reposado. They'll taste completely different, and so it's a great thing about tequila. It's endless in the world and of tequila, and yeah. So thanks for your time. I really appreciate it, and look forward to everybody's comments, and what can we do next? And
yeah, absolutely,
we learned a lot.
So thank you, Chris, for having us. So to everybody watching, let us know what other topics you'd like to see. Do you want to see some comparisons with other types of liquors? Do you want to understand the difference between mezcal and maybe a tequila? Do you want to see specific guests come on and talk and maybe share a little bit more about them? You want to see some cocktails like Chris taught us in our episode on how to drink tequila? Let us know in the comments and we will create it for you. And in the meantime, enjoy your sip of tequila, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.
Salud, everyone. Thank you. Bye.